Welcome back with another banger. It's the React Brothers. Let's get straight to it.
Is there a Bigfoot story that really sticks out to you?
We did a documentary out in Washington State called Sasquatch and the Missing Man. And we went to ground zero of Wes Germer. The way he got into the topic was him and his brother went out on the mountain after their dad passed away, just kind of blow steam one night. They're just driving around and they found themselves on a logging road. And they pull off onto even more of a logging road. It's like overgrown and everything. And they're just sitting there. And then they start hearing what they thought was people walking in on them. It wasn't until whatever was behind the car growled that they realized this isn't people. And he said that the growl was so deep that they could feel it in the car. They could physically feel this growl vibrating in them. They back the vehicle out and they pull off down the road just a little bit. And Woody pulls over, their adrenaline is pumping. And there's these Bigfoot creatures that start coming out of the, not just one, many, all ranging in sizes. One was in the tree next to them. They could see the silhouette of it. And the biggest one would like march across this logging road in an aggressive way. Like, it was like almost like trying to like strut its stuff. Like, yeah, you want some of this? And another one dropped down on all four. And he said the way it crossed the road was on all four, and it didn't walk with its arms and legs like you would think. It literally used its fingers and its toes to walk across the road. They come out, they start talking about this story, and I was like, Wes, would you let me come out there and shoot a documentary on your story on Ground Zero? Take me there. And he's like, for you, I'll do it. And so we did, and we went out there and we documented this journey of going to Ground Zero where this legendary story happened. And the last night we were there, we had the most activity. Like something was coming in on the RV that we drove up there. So we go out and we hear that growl. I could tell you, it was so deep. I felt it. In a split second, you're like, it's right there. Like that's how it felt. It was right there.
Everyone needs to know what's happening in Indonesia right now. Over the past week, the country has seen possibly its worst public violence in decades, with huge clashes between protesters and authorities. And while it started with fairly peaceful demonstrations organized by students, the situation escalated after a 21-year-old ride-sharing driver was run over and killed by an armored police truck. And since then, the protests have turned into riots, city council buildings were set on fire, fireworks were set off in the streets, and even the homes of government officials have been looted. Simply put, the public say they are fed up with the leaders who feel completely out of touch with the everyday struggles. TikTok even had to temporarily suspend live features across the country due to the violence being broadcasted. Now, in response, authorities have bumped up security in several cities and have also started using tear gas and force to disperse crowds. So far, 8 people have lost their lives as a result. Now, the reason people are so angry right now is because of the government's recent decision to grant MPs a costly new housing allowance, which was widely seen in the country as exorbitant given Indonesia's current harsh economic climate. But in reality, the housing allowance was just the straw that broke the camel's back, because frustration in the country has been brewing for years. Indonesians say that they are watching officials and the rich live lavishly on these big salaries, while ordinary people are struggling with rising costs of living, low wages, little support, and government corruption. And now that anger is spilling out onto the streets, turning years of frustration into loud demands for change. But of course, as things develop, I'll keep you guys updated.
Shout out to Indonesia. My prayers are with you. Be safe. Shout out to Dylan Page for bringing us to the front of the congregation. Things are not looking good out there. Now that the military using force on the protesters, my opinion, it only gets worse from here. Seen it so many times in history, you know? My condolences to the family of that victim who passed away in that tragedy. 21 years old. That's heartbreaking. It's good to see the whole country have his back, you know? Like some real revolution.
This company 3D printed an entire neighborhood. All those houses were printed with those giant machines. But get this, because they're printed, people can design wild looking homes that are actually affordable to build. The company behind this is called Icon. And to build their homes, they designed 2 state-of-the-art robots, the Vulcan and the Phoenix. Now the Phoenix is an insane feat of engineering. It's a multi-story crane that can lay an entire home foundation in just 24 hours. But here's where it gets wild. Icon also built Vitruvius, an AI architect. You just type in what kind of house you want, bedrooms, bathrooms, style, and it helps you custom build your dream home. They have hundreds of unique designs, and the customization is nearly endless. But here's why this all really matters. Companies like Icon could help solve the housing crisis. They think they can get construction costs down below $25 per square foot. That's 8 times lower than California. All these design concepts you're seeing cost less than $99,000 to build. And one more thing, Icon's using that same 3D tech to build test structures for Mars. And not gonna lie, that Mars 2-bed, 2-bath is looking pretty sweet.
I agree. That looked crazy and it's affordable. Shout outs to Callaway. That was insane. One hurricane and it's over.
It wasn't made by a bunch of truthers. This is BBC. Told you this.
You're gonna make this happen?
No.
We're going to make models much cheaper. Then we photograph the models.
Fake newsreels?
Fake newsreels. For the past 10 years, people have been looking at our fake newsreels and listening to our fake commentaries.
And they accept it for the truth. And you can do it. Stop 100 people in the street. How many of them have actually seen a missile or a satellite? They're just told they exist and they believe it.
Yes, you're getting there. I knew you would. You didn't really believe there were all these things whizzing about up there, did you? Sputniks and rockets? Astronauts crossing their legs for 8 days.
How long has this been going on?
Since Hiroshima.
And the H-bomb, you mean, that doesn't work either?
Right. Dirty.
Very, very dirty.
What was your first reaction? Relief. Oh, yes. Yes, it has to be relief.
You say you can put out what pictures you like on television. Doesn't anybody try to stop you?
No, nobody wants to. 99.386% of the population wouldn't believe this conversation. And the rest are working for us. And they're the top minds, the really responsible people. Scare an ostrich, buries its head in the sand. You scare a hedgehog, it rolls itself up into a ball. When a woman's frightened, she goes out and buys herself a hat.
You mean you scare us so that we'll buy more, so that money moves quicker, production moves up?
We don't say scare when we talk about human beings. We say threaten them emotionally. And there are all sorts of ways, not just the big ones like the hydrogen bomb. Overcrowd them a little with bad planning. Sell them too many motor cars. Anything to keep them a little bit removed from reality. Nowadays, people don't work for money. They work for the idea of money. They don't even love for love. They love for the idea of love. They only hate for the idea of hate. It took us 5 years to find a non-addictive tea, gave them nice little hallucinations. Made them talk like 3-year-olds. Throw flowers at policemen. Politicians are easy to control. The grosser mentality boys who like to be photographed getting in and out of Daimlers in Whitehall. They come right at the bottom of our organization. A few rungs up the ladder, there are the people in the top secret factories. Just those in a position to know they're making weapons that don't really work.
There must come a time when somebody wants to use one of those weapons. I mean, somebody is standing there with a finger on the button.
Well, that's the beauty of it. Nobody presses the button.
Wow. Now, look around here at this stuff. And also what I want you to see is there's a pocket-looking thing here, an eyeball.
That is so much bigger than I thought. And it's so much oranger than I thought. I don't understand why that sand is so much oranger than any we've seen it otherwise. It's probably some sort of optical thing with it being down this pit. Wow.
That's eroded blood. The same thing here. This is from muscle.
On this camera, I can already tell. The color's better. It's cold in here. The wind is like swirling, which I think is part of how it formed. Which I looked it up on the way, and I'll talk about it in a minute. But
all right, he's going to try to figure out how it formed. Okay, so he's going to try to explain how he thinks it formed, and he talks about swirling things, I believe. I just saw him say that. And I agree with that. That certainly helped.
I just can't believe this is real. It looks so unreal.
All right, let's see what we can see from this. You see all these little wrinkles around here? See these wrinkles? Why would that be? All those wrinkles. And then down in there. Now let's see if anything else in this area shows us what this might be. See the wrinkles? This is important. This is a clue. Whoops. You see these little nodule looking things? This blocks here. And it's coming up this way. Alright? It wasn't just here, it was literally growing. This is my claims, my thinking. I could be wrong. Now the eye was over here. Now, I think it was over here. Now, if I'm right, that eye would have attached to something over in this area. Because I'm telling you right now, I think this was a hair follicle.
So,
and I'll show you why.
It's hard to find information about this place online because it's obviously way in the middle of nowhere. And a lot of people said you would need a rope to get off the sand, but I'm looking here, and pretty small ledge with some very defined handholds. I'm assuming from search and rescue putting those there after people have gotten stuck in here, and yeah, I'll be able to go down in there.
Alright, now here it comes down from here. I say this is, that eyeball is like that muscle, because this is a muscle. And this is a hair follicle. And the erector pili muscle, it'd be like that eyeball. So there, it latches out to an anchor. So that would have to come over to this side, right there. Whoops, hold on. I think I just saw where it went. Let me turn this thing really slow and see what we can make of this. First of all, you see the handheld stuff up there? Somebody chopped that in there so you can get in and out of here. So now let's go back just a hair. Alright, he's getting down in here. This thing's big. Now don't forget, look at all the biology down here, all these swirls and all of these wrinkles. That's key, because I'm going to show you what hairs look like. And they all have a root ball like this. And this is, I believe, way down under the shaft. The hair would be way up here at the top of the surface. Woo! Alright, this is going to be, I'm just going to turn it off. Alright, so he made it down. Now, here's the face, if you call it a face. Now, watch. I believe it attached right over there. So there's the eyeball. It looks like an eyeball. It's nice and red, and it came over here and attached. And that way there, that hair could go up and down like this. And you say, oh, that's crazy. The hair couldn't be that big. Oh, yes, it could be that big. Well, this one here, this is just one I can hold in my hand, but it's 2 inches wide. And there's the root ball at the bottom. Alright, he's right about down to here. And all that red stuff is around the root ball. Now, let's just back it up just a hair again. Alright, so this is where the eyeball is, right up there. Over to here is where it attaches to the muscle. Let's do it again. Let's check it. I don't want to go too fast. There it is right there. That's exactly how it would invest. Exactly. Okay, remember I told you to pay real close attention to that, all the wrinkly things around that cavity? I believe that was an infected hair. And all around there it became infected and bloody and festous and basically rotted away around the outside, and the hair shaft decreased down to where the ball is way down underneath. It's quite a ways down.
The Spice Pit in Utah. Shout out to Roger Spur. Shout out to the two homies who went out there with the drone, the cameras, climbed up in there. My first time hearing about this place. I definitely got to do some research right here for sure. This just got written on the bucket list, if you know what I mean. How many of y'all been to the Spice Pit in Utah? Let me know in the comments down below.
I've been digging through these old maps and something keeps popping up. Dragons. Why is that? Why does nearly every culture on Earth have stories about dragons? It's strange. And these stories aren't isolated. They are everywhere, forming a sort of shared myth across the world. When we talk about dragons today, we think about them as pure fantasy. But ancient explorers and historians didn't. To them, these dragons were real. They wrote about them, they named them, they battled them. Were they just making these things up, or is there more to the story?
I'm not interested in dragons, I'm interested in reality.
Say, well, there's no such thing as a dragon. It's like, okay, is there such a thing as a predator?
Of course.
We went from Walter Cronkite to this guy, Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons.
There's a group of people that say that dragons were real.
The fact that we know that pterodactyls did exist, that's cool. Right. It would be way cooler as if they existed with people.
The dragon fight story is explore the dangerous unknown, discover the treasure that revitalizes the community.
Do you think that holds any weight?
Let me read you something. There is a place in Arabia to which I went on hearing of some winged serpents. And when I arrived there, I saw bones and spines of serpents in such quantities it would be impossible to describe. The form of the serpent is like that of a water snake, but it has wings without feathers and is like as possible to the wings of a bat. That is a quote from Herodotus, often called the world's first historian. And yes, he is talking about dragons. That was recorded in around 450 BC. Before you dismiss it, he is the source for much of our knowledge about prehistory and antiquity. He is the first person to report on Troy, which turned out to be true. And I want to continue this quote because Herodotus says something that's revealing. Herodotus adds, "The Arabians say that the trees which bear the frankincense are guarded by small winged serpents. They are numerous and dangerous to approach. To gather the frankincense, they burn storax to produce smoke that drives the serpents away." This part of the quote is really important because it shows that these winged serpents weren't just added for dramatic flair to make the story more interesting. Herodotus is including practical details about how these Arabians dealt with these creatures. But what's strange is this isn't the only quote like this from history. I want to move forward about 1700 years to discuss the traveler and famous trader Marco Polo. Even centuries later, dragons are still showing up in maps and still showing up in reports from travelers. This is the Fra Mauro map created in the mid-15th century. It's one of the most comprehensive and detailed world maps of the time. It charted everything from Europe to Asia to Africa and parts of Russia. This here is Europe, and this is Asia, and this here is Africa. Now let me flip this map around so it makes a little bit more sense. Marco Polo was said to have seen dragons somewhere in this region, what we now call Indonesia or Malaysia. Marco Polo described the dragons like this. "Here are found snakes and huge serpents, 10 paces in length, and 10 spans the girth of the body. The jaws are wide enough to swallow a man. The teeth are large and sharp, and their whole appearance is so formidable that neither man nor any kind of animal can approach them without terror. Others are met with a smaller size, between 8, 6, and 5 paces long." But Marco Polo is not reporting on ordinary reptiles here. He is claiming that these dragons were apex predators. They would even eat large animals like tigers and wolves. And he also wrote that they hunted strategically. They would hide in their caves during the day, and then they would come out at night to find their prey. And this sounds very familiar to us. This sounds like a python or a crocodile. But it still leaves the question is, why were these creatures added to the maps at all? And it's because the explorers at this time took these maps seriously. It wasn't folklore. It was knowledge for them for how to navigate the world's dangers. And Marco Polo is not the only one who's reporting seeing dragons. Both Alexander the Great and his generals saw dragons while invading India. And there were even stories that these generals, who would later go on to rule Egypt, would capture these dragons and bring them back to their palace as a display of power. Stories like this come up again and again and again throughout antiquity. In 1552, there was a Swiss naturalist by the name of Conrad Gessner, who's considered to be the father of modern zoology, and he said this about dragons. The dragon is the largest serpent. Its strength lies not in its teeth, but in its tail. It kills with a blow rather than with poison. The dragon lives in caves and shows itself at dusk and at night. This account sounds suspiciously similar to both Alexander the Great and Marco Polo's reports. And Gessner's report was not even conjecture. It wasn't theory. He claimed that he had captured a young dragon at some point for his collection. He also included illustrations in his book, which almost exactly match the description of these dragons in Herodotus's book. And reports like this aren't confined to a singular region. Dragons appear in the histories of the Middle East, Asia, Europe, Africa, the Americas. And with this consistency, it raises a question: were all of these people wrong, or are we missing something? All of these reports share a few things in common. Reptiles that kill at night, they hide in caves, and sometimes, strangely, they fly. But I want to talk about the most diverse and most common group of reptiles on planet Earth: birds. If you've ever wondered why birds lay eggs instead of giving traditional mammal birth, it's because they're not mammals. They're actually reptiles. And this is why you see dinosaur depictions now with these dinosaurs that have feathers, because they are related to birds. Surprisingly, birds also share a common ancestor with crocodiles, which also have an extremely ancient lineage. So much so that many zoologists actually refer to crocodiles as living fossils because they have remained largely unchanged since the time of the dinosaurs. Their lineage dates back 200 million years. Take a look at this crocodile that was captured in the Philippines. It was actually captured near where Marco Polo reported seeing dragons himself. And this crocodile measured in at 20 feet long, but that's not uncommon. In the 1950s, there was a report of a crocodile in Papua New Guinea that measured in at 33 feet. And there are extinct forms of super crocs that measure in at 40 feet long. In my opinion, this is very dragon-like. But the question remains that if dragons are real and they existed, where is the evidence? Where are the fossils? But here's the thing. Fossils are super rare. Scientists estimate that there were probably around 4 billion species that have ever walked planet Earth. But we only have fossils for about 300,000 species. We have fossil proof for 1% of the species that have ever lived, and 99% of all species disappeared without a trace. So with this knowledge, I want to explore what people might have meant when they use the word dragon. The first thing that you probably need to know is that before 1877, the word dinosaur didn't exist. People used the word dragon to describe all large reptiles. So when I say dragons may have been real, I'm not suggesting that there is a unique type of reptile called dragon that's disappeared. Dragons and dinosaurs and large reptiles were the same thing. And with this understanding, I want to look at the possibility that some of these animals that were around during this time, during the time of the dinosaurs, maybe some of these large reptiles lived long enough to overlap with us here on Earth. This is a coelacanth. They were a type of fish that actually died off during the great dinosaur extinction. But strangely, they were rediscovered in 1938 by a museum worker that found one swimming in the Indian Ocean. They weren't extinct after all.
Life began on the Earth about 600 million years ago. And now Professor J.L. Smith has arrived back in South Africa with one of its earliest inhabitants, a fish called the coelacanth.
And since then, scientists have actually discovered a second species of living coelacanth from the same era, alive and well, swimming in the ocean. So the question is, if one extinct species can exist for millions of years without being noticed, is it possible that others could as well? In fact, it happens all the time. So much so that they now refer to it as a Lazarus taxon. The rediscovery of extinct species happens frequently. But before I wrap up, I want to read you a few more accounts of another mythical creature that comes up a lot in these ancient accounts. Herodotus writes this: "There is a tribe of people who are entirely covered in hair and live in the densest part of the forests." Here's another account from Andrew Bartell, a 17th century English explorer, who said, "They are very monstrous, and they are so strong that 10 men cannot hold one of them. And they are bold and will come to the fire and snatch meat off of it." But here's the twist. Those quotes aren't about Sasquatch. They are quotes about gorillas, which were dismissed as myths until they were officially discovered and classified in 1847. So, do I believe these accounts? Yes, I do. I believe that ancient explorers were honest about their encounters with large reptiles while traveling. The world is full of mysteries, and sometimes the things that we dismiss as myths turn out to be pretty close to the truth. And that's why I think Joe Rogan might actually be onto something here. Do I believe that dragons walk the earth? Yes, I do. Because in many ways, we're still walking the earth with them today. Joe Rogan wins again.
W is for Joe Rogan. W is for Taylor McMahon. A very interesting breakdown of dragons. I thought he was talking about Sasquatch as well. Ended up being gorillas. Had me thinking about Godzilla and King Kong. Me personally, I do believe dragons did exist, especially after seeing Roger Spur's research on what the homies found in Utah.
Oh my days. Oh my diddy. So if you don't know by now, that American history, alongside Australian, is one of the most made up stories out there, then you're probably still plugged into the Matrix. This is the Lincoln High School in Washington, and they say it was founded in 1913. But we know, anytime they use the word founded, it means they found it. It means the building was already there. Because why would you build a high school that looks like a castle? More like you turned a castle into a high school. So this is what I don't think you understand. Around the 1800s and the early 1900s, there was no resistance to their agenda. All they was doing is robbing people's land, putting people into slavery, and rewriting history. So when it comes to buildings like this, they always say there was some architect, he always comes from out of town, he got some funding from somewhere, then they rebuilt the building, then they moved the building, and then they changed it. And the reason why they do that is so you can't trace the origin, so you get confused. They didn't build these buildings. These buildings that they talk about in America, the New World, America is the old world. I mean, look, they've even got mud flooded windows. Guaranteed this building goes 3-4 levels underground. I know this might be difficult for you to understand because you've read a lot of books and you studied in high school. But all you studied was a set of lies that they agreed upon. They claim there are no castles in America. The castles are hiding in plain sight. The castle, they turned into a high school.
Well said. Shout out to 151. Shout out to Lincoln High School out in Washington. That joint truly is a castle. It's obvious. Especially where the cement is. For the street, it got hit with the mud flood. Fascinating.
The one thing I don't understand is why people just can't leave the paranormal, supernatural world alone. Why do I say that? Because they are now claiming that you will need a priest to go see the brand new Conjuring movie, Last Rites. This comes on the heels, as there are claims and there are videos that are circulating all over social media of someone that became possessed during the screening of The Conjuring, Last Rites. Let's get back into everything that we know about the doll and what has happened during the tour. We've had floodings, we had fires, we've even had people losing their lives, including one of the handlers that was handling Annabelle on her world tour. So every single time a new movie comes out, something new happens, and it's crazy and it's unexplainable and it's very coincidental. But people will continue to go see these movies as they're released, but this time they're warning to be blessed by a priest before you enter the movie theater. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments, and as always, I'd love to hear from you.
Sounds like one scary ass movie if you ask me. Shout out to Jode69. Maybe it's just stirring good publicity, but I did see that possession happening in the theater. That was crazy. That was crazy. Just say a little prayer in the car before you go.
I'm gonna show you guys something crazy. Have you ever seen something so crazy? Taco Bell Defy. Look at these guys waiting in line because they're doing the normal drive-through soccer.
Oh, I got their ass now. These motherfuckers. Oh, let's go. Let's go.
This is about to get so deep it's gonna make your head spin. Now, just take a look at that, right? It's the innocent Starbucks logo, right? Look at it. Innocent. Just a little woman with, tail or something like that with a thing on her head, right? But let's look at the Starbucks logo from the back. Look at that. And let's be honest. When do you ever know of mermaids or sirens to actually have a double, what is this we're looking at? They don't have that depiction. So what are we looking at here? We are looking at the depiction of an ancient deity that actually bred with human beings here in this realm. This is gonna get good. Boom. Does that look familiar to you? Let's run it back. Boom. Say that name right there, Melusine. Do you see this double tail over here? Look, crown, just like the Starbucks. Look, double tail, crown, right? Crown. We're seeing that, correct? Are y'all catching all this, right? This is Melusine. Melusine is a siren or form of merwoman that actually came to this earth plane, tricked a man into getting her to breed with him. We're gonna get into that. Because this is a depiction of an ancient family that's tied in to a spell that's locked in to this earth realm. Melusine is a female freshwater spirit figure of European folklore, right? Depicted as a mermaid or lamia with a human upper body and a serpent or fish lower body. The legend explains her transformation into a monstrous animal from the waist down every Saturday after a family curse. This happened after a family curse. Her story is connected to the House of Luxembourg and the French House of Lucina, with variations appearing in French, German, and other European folklore. We're gonna get into this. So I said, who the hell is the Luxembourg family? Because I don't just look at shit and I'm tapping in. So I go, many royal houses and noble families, including the House of Luxembourg and Lucinian, claim to be descendants of Melusine's children, making her a key figure in the dynastic history. Melusine embodies both the nurturing aspects of a wife and mother, untamed nature of her serpent form, reflecting societal views on blah, blah, blah. Let's stick to descendants here. Remember this, because I'm gonna cap this off real beautiful. Luxembourg, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. German, Luxembourg, dynasty, royal family, Roman Empire, members 1308. Look, kings of Germany. House of Luxembourg. Look, take a look. That is the coat of arms. Just so you know that this is very, very real. Very real. There we go. Look all the way down here at the bottom. Order of the Dragon. Order of the Dragon. Let's keep cooking. Order of the Dragon, elected aristocracy, founded in 1408. Okay. This is the Order of the Dragon's emblem. And now let's get into the story of Melusine, this Starbucks mermaid. The earliest version of the story was probably penned by Welsh writer Walter Map, who lived during the 12th century. He recounts the story. It's about a mother-in-law who witnesses her daughter-in-law changing into a dragon while she's taking a bath. So one day the king, he went hunting. He stumbled across this beautiful woman in the forest. She was just there. He realized that she isn't any lady, but she was a fairy. It didn't take long for the king to fall for her love, and he fell in love with her. He goes down on his knees after exchanging only a few words. Meaning what? She enchanted this motherfucker. After she enchanted him, she told him, I'll marry you under one condition. You must never enter my chamber when I give birth or bathe the children. It didn't seem like a very big sacrifice, so the king agreed to it. And yes, you assessed it like any good man would. The king broke his promise. He spied on his wife while she was giving birth to triplets. Melusine was heartbroken, but she had no other choice than to run away from the Isle of Avalon. There she raised her three girls, Melusine, Melior, and Palatine. As the girls grew older, they started to learn about the outside world and wondered where they were basically being brought up, why they were being brought up and secluded. Melusine grew tired of all the questions and they wanted to go back and, test the father. Melusine was angry. The only thing she could think of was revenge. Basically, they went back here, and when they went back, they basically used their magical powers to lock him in a mountain with all of his wealth. Melusine, mom, was furious. She punished her daughter with a curse. Right here, it depicts what happened with Melusine and how she got caught. When he saw her in the tub, remember, she was cursed by her mother, and she wasn't supposed to be seen in the tub. Remember, you got certain mermaids that come on land, and then you have mermaids that change when they touch water. Of course, she told him, yo, when I'm giving childbirth or when I'm in the bath, you can't look at me. Why? Because you're gonna change into a mermaid. When the king found out, they had a terrible fight in front of the whole court. A shouting match ensued, and he actually called her a serpent. She didn't take that well, and she flew off. According to some legends, she came back to see how her boys were doing, but according to others, she was never seen again. Some of her sons became noble and just kings. Others grew into power-hungry bullies. Promised to never come in on a Saturday. They had 10 children. Look here, the Lusinian dynasty, and building the magnificent Chateau Lusignan, which was said to be built by Melusine's magical power. This is the chateau right here. This is the chateau modern day. With a moat around it, water. And if you look at this place, I'm sorry, but where is the water coming from? And this place was built in like 908. The water is still there, the moat is still there, and where'd the water even come from? Look at this image here. Look at what's going on in the background here. Yeah, that's 190% Tartarian. Look at that architecture. Stone. Look at that work. So I said to myself, there is something more demonic going on here with this symbol. This symbol is tied into some deep, esoteric, evil shit that occurred a long time ago. We already know these entities exist, and they were around just like dragons and unicorns and everything else back in because they were normal. That's the Starbucks sign, upside down. Yeah, go ahead, take all the time you need. On that note, I'm gonna have to make a part 2. Look at that. You turn the symbol upside down, and I'm sorry, that resemblance, woo boy. And you know how they love to invert things. They love to invert them, because even if it's inverted, the symbol, the sigil, the energy is still the same. So you got Starbucks, you got coffee, you got Melusine, you got siren, evil, demonic entity energy that has been cursed, okay? Cursed, put into a circle with a pentagram. Are there any witches or alchemy out there? Has anybody put cursed deity, witch, with crown, with pentagram inside of a circle?
That's crazy. I never thought to look at it upside down. Shout out to Damian Michaels. I didn't know it ran that deep. I know it had ties to mythology, but I know it was like this. It's crazy, so I feel like I heard that story back in elementary. Like, yo, these myths were real. It reminds me of the monster can when you turn it upside down when you're drinking it. Same with this right here.
Ever since the weird sighting of that object that fell through the sky over Oaxaca, Mexico, people are now sending videos of unidentified objects that they're encountering. And this next video is absolutely out of this world. Literally a factory of workers evacuated because this glowing orb entered their facility. And they have no explanation for this. This isn't a ghostly orb. This is something completely else, something we've never seen this close. Take a look at this video, comment below, tell me what you think.
Loco, los marcianos, pa, eso me viene decidido. ¿Ustedes no lo están vivo? ¿Qué viene, verdad? ¿Ese que el país se quedó pegado, dice? Seguimos viendo, ¿verdad? Loco, los marcianos, pa, eso me viene decidido. ¿Ustedes no lo están vivo?
I think the girls with their nails done now. If the creepy bunker isn't what will sell you on this place, maybe it's the extensive cave system in the backyard. This is a home for sale right now in Shelbyville, Tennessee. The address literally is Zero Cavern Bunker, and it truly is one of a kind. This is what the house looks like from the outside. It's actually really nice on the inside, almost as if you never expect to find a bunker hiding in a cave in the backyard. This is a 2-bed, 2-bath home with a full workshop attached, and they include pictures of a Humvee, which actually comes with the property. Interestingly enough, the house also comes fully furnished, almost like they're trying to get rid of anything that may have an ancient spirit attached to it. The property has a whole bunch of outbuildings. Here's one of them, and then they have this little cabin that's currently being used as a chicken coop. Now, I don't know if the chickens come with the property or not, but that is an important question. I'm assuming this is the trail you have to take to get to the bunker, which is built into the cave, and this cave system is extensive. I mean really extensive. In the listing description, it says that it covers 60,000 square feet. Just think of all the exploring you could do here. They also say that all other entry points into the cave system have been blocked off with over 10 tons of steel, which is kind of terrifying to think about. My imagination just runs wild with this place. Imagine the spooky seances you could host here. I'm pretty upset that they don't show you what the inside of the bunker looks like, but with all of the property they have, with all of the outbuildings and the cave system, Halloween parties would go so hard here.
The fact that it's on Zillow is insane. Shout out to Bobby Curtis Lee. This right here was a good find. Yeah, this Zillow listing is creepy as hell.
Ovid said they turned them into lawn sculptures just for fun. Just because they could, just to adorn themselves in their palaces and so forth. You see this green, extremely green? That is indication of red blood collecting in those areas. Now the other white stuff is like from tendon and so forth, which would be, your torso has a lot of tough stuff in the back, but this is from the blood. And the rest is just skin tissue. This here is more from the thighs. You have a lot of blood that collects in this area. It's very hard to dismiss this. Very, very hard. Here's another one. This is posed and stay there for eternity. This is exactly where I would expect the blood to collect here in her arm. Same thing over here on her shoulder and so forth. They run it down from your arteries. And of course, it's all over here is where the blood drained down into her legs. As far as I'm concerned, that was real at one time. And if you could get up there and look at it real close, you could figure it out absolutely for certain. But they had some way of coating, of hardening everything on the exterior. But the interior is still pretty well intact in most of these that I found. Now look at that thing in the back. I said, no, they did it just for fun. Ovid talks about it. Look at all these little details. Look at her breast. There's some kind of something happened to it there. And anytime you see the green moss, it's from some bloody intervention of some sort, a cut or just the gravity of the blood, because the blood stays fluid literally forever. It's the craziest thing. You'd expect it just the opposite, but no. Okay, I've talked about Ovid many, many, many times. He wrote in the time of Julius Caesar about all of the stories that they talked about turning creatures into stone. And it was the biggest, most important thing in his 12,000 lines. The first two lines of book 1, he wrote 15 books. Line 1 and 2. Ovid brings up this metamorphosis, which means morphing, changing. In the opening lines, in nova fertanimus mutatis disceris formos corpora, I intend to speak of forms changed into new entities. Accompanying this theme is often violence inflicted upon the victim whose transformation becomes part of the natural landscape. They did it for fun. And then he says, then they go on about, oh, he didn't really mean it. Well, he did. And he said there is a great variety among the types of transformations. There is a great variety among the types of transformations that take place. They can go from humans to inanimate objects like statues and so forth, or into constellations, into animals, into plants, from animals and ants and funguses and mushrooms into humans, from one sex to another. You turn into hyenas, from one color to another, they turn into pebbles, and it is the most important thing in all of his gigantic work, which was these 15 books. And he started with all of the ancient texts, 250 myth stories. Book 1 is the creation of Earth, the creation. How did it all start? Ages of mankind. We all heard about that, the flood, the great flood. We all heard about that. Deucalion, who was Noah. And in the ancient Greek stuff, and the Prometheus was Noah's father. So it's a little bit, you know, you got Greek and you got Roman, they sort of mix together. So you got a lot of, they confirm each other, but in sort of a different language. That's basically all. And a little twist here, a twist there, but virtually everything aligns with the Roman and the Greek as far as I'm concerned. And it comes down to Mars and Venus and all of the Jupiter and Europa. All of these are gods. These are gods. They're not just planets and moons and so forth. They're gods in this scenario. Hercules, you know, the Cyclopses. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And he finally gets into, you know, Troy and so forth, the fall of Troy and, you know, Helen of Troy and all that stuff, all the way down to Julius Caesar, who they claim turned into a god. Is that possible? I don't know. But they deified him as a god. Now, something I want to speak about is that Ovid wrote at the time of Julius Caesar. Now, Julius Caesar was declared a god after he died, 2 years, well, after he was assassinated, 2 years after the Senate of Rome said he is a god. He was a god. Now, I try to say to myself, wow, all these guys got together and made him a god? They just said, well, the guy's a god? Well, let's think about what they were thinking at that time, because it changes everything if you put yourself into their time frame and their mindset, because they knew there were gods here. They weren't that far removed. That's 2,000, couple hundred years ago, 2,200 or so years ago. So at that time they still did know, because Pliny had gone through the entire Roman Empire and categorized and cataloged literally everything. The guy was absolutely stunning at the detail, and he had all of the stories of all these people, and they were dog-headed people living in certain places, giants in the other places, and monsters over here, and dragons over here, and he dedicated his life, I forget what the name of it was, a big universal work of everything that they discovered on their conquest, the barbarians and everything, people living up, absolutely stunning stuff. Four-legged humans, dogs with human heads. Now, at that point in time, a couple thousand years ago, you wipe things out that you don't like. And I think that's what happened. It just got all these things that were just so odd. Once they moved in and they said, hey, whoa, these things are crazy. And they just wiped them out. So, and then at that point, it just got pushed off the table. Just like now, academia doesn't want to know anything about giants. They're absolutely for certain they were here. And not that long ago, now that I'm finding out. Well, absolutely not that long ago, if you take into what they say, millions of years, absolutely not. And the Romans knew this as well. So they deified him. They said, well, he was a god. He was one of those guys. He came down here as a god, just like Zeus did, Jupiter. He would come down as Zeus in a human form. Just like the things I just showed you, these crazy things. They were huge, they were big, but they were still human, and they were pretty hot, these chicks down there. That's why they came down. They'd party up and have sex parties, and that's what happened. Now that's her heart bleeding out. And I have so many examples of this. Well, even Egyptians did the same thing. Let me show you an Egyptian statue.
Yo, that's so fascinating. Shout out to Roger Spur. I've never seen those petrified images before. Those ain't mountains, those are straight humans turned into stone. What's crazy is that the blood inside still exists,
Okay, in my last video, we were talking about Starbucks and how it's tied to this demonic energy. And I want to tie it in all the way back to an ancient family. Let's go. First off, who created the logo? This man right here created the logo. Terry Heckler. He has actually created multiple logos. He created the Panera Bread logo. He created the New Balance logo. He's created many logos. What do you think a logo is? A logo is a spell. It's a spell. And man, oh man, it would be really, really nice if you could cast a spell on people to draw in all of their money and be able to cast spells on them at the same time. Let's cook. There he is. He made Cinnabon, New Balance, and Starbucks. Where did Terry grow up? Because see, me, when I heard that he created the logo, you know what I said to myself? I said, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna find a connection between him, where he's from, these ancient families, because he didn't just do this. He was commissioned to do this. He was ordered as like a hidden mage, spellcaster to do this. Where did he grow up? Terry Heckler grew up in Windber, right? Pennsylvania, mining town. Let's cook this. This is how they flip shit on you. The town of Windber, Pennsylvania was founded and originally owned, think about that, by the Berwyn family. The town's name is derived from a reordering of the family's name. What do you mean a reordering? Look, the town was founded as a company town in 1897 by coal barons, Charles and Edward Julius Berwyn, owners of the Berwyn White Coal Mining Company. Let's go all the way down here. The name Windber was created by simply reversing the syllables of Berwyn. So I said, oh, they're doing what those families like to do when they switch their name around so that you can hide it, so that you can't find their lineage. Black Adam in this house, bitch, fuck out of here. So I said, okay, I'm not researching the Windbers. Now I'm gonna go find a connection with the Berwyn family. Then I start reading information connecting the Berwyn family, known for the Philadelphia-based Berwyn Corporation, to a Luxembourg family. Remember video 1? Remember the Luxembourg? The Berwyn family's origins are tied to German immigrants, and the Berwyn Corporation operates globally with multiple diversified businesses, but connections to a specific Luxembourg family. Berwyn family immigrated from, see that right there, right? Germany. Let's just go see if that has any connection with the Luxembourg. Stop playing with me. Do not fucking play with me. Your magic is weak. See how close that is? That's damn near like New York, New Jersey. Then as you read here, look, German, Luxembourg, dynasty, royal family, Roman Empire, and look, members between look, as kings of Germany. What just happened there? What happened was the Starbucks logo, Cursed Mermaid family, has ties to another family which actually owns a corporation and a whole entire town in Pennsylvania. And then this guy, Terry Heckler, just so happens to be in this exact town, putting this exact deity from these ancient German royal families on this logo. And yeah. Then I said, okay, we got a family from ancient times that decided to use this symbol and tie it into coffee beans, and now it is hands down the #1 most coveted coffee on the planet. Then I said, why would they use coffee beans? Do coffee beans have any kind of magical uses or purposes? Check this shit out. Yes, in various modern pagan and witchcraft traditions, coffee is believed to be a conduit for spell casting and other magical workings. Come on, man, am I cooking or am I cooking? Its stimulating properties are used to add speed and energy to spells. What does that mean? That means just by having that deity in that motherfucking, with the pentagram, with the crown on her head, tied into everything, it literally is enhancing and speeding up the spell casting. It is also used for grounding, protection, and clearing blockages. The realistic nature of preparing and consuming coffee allows practitioners to infuse it with intention. According to modern witchcraft and occultism, the properties of coffee include... Man, do y'all see where this is going? Y'all enjoying that coffee? Y'all enjoying y'all Starbucks? Y'all think these people are gonna sit there and let you enjoy anything without a spell being attached to it? Oh, no, no, no. That would mean freedom. That would mean you can enjoy that without being tethered to anything. Ask yourself, all you gotta do is analyze people when it comes to Starbucks. Are they or are they not tethered to that? Can't do without it. Can't even go past it. Is there a Starbucks here? I'm not even going. Do they have a Starbucks? Tethered. Spellbound. Yeah, this ain't conscious. This ain't woke. I know you might have thought when I started, oh, he's just being a little too woke. Oh, no, 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 no. You don't know magic. Alchemical and elemental significance. Some practitioners and spiritual writers view coffee through an alchemical lens, noting that it represents all 4 classical elements. I'm just telling y'all, if y'all look at energy, y'all look at spells. I'm out here breaking spells. This is what I do. Black Adam and this motherfucker. I ain't got time to be looking at things with some flat, boring eyes like y'all. I'm trying to give y'all new eyes. Open it up. Open it. Don't act woke. Be woke. Earth, coffee beans grow from the ground. The beans are dried and fermented. Air, earth, air. Fire, the beans are roasted. Water, the coffee is brewed with water for consumption. This complete cycle is thought to give coffee a balanced and potent spiritual significance and make it a versatile tool in magical goddamn practices. God damn it, bitch. Say my name. So they took an ancient cursed deity from ancient times who actually bred with men and created an empire based off of that. Then what they did was they decided to use a man by the name of Terry Heckler to create this quote unquote logo / spell to bind people by using the coffee bean ritual. And now y'all wake up every morning and run on down there to get you some enchanted coffee from this ancient family. Oh, you want to see something else they did? Ooh, this is good. Ooh! Hear this shit. You know they're connected to the Luxembourg family, right? Well, look. Oh, there's no evidence of any direct ownership link between the Luxembourg royal family and Starbucks. Oh, really, bitch? Luxembourg is connected to the Starbucks through corporate taxation practices? You mean illegal? Look, German-based Ryman family who owns a rival company. Look. The European Commission ruled that Luxembourg had granted illegal state aid to Fiat and the Netherlands and had done the same for Starbucks through provincial tax arrangements. Starbucks was found to have a tax deal with Dutch officials that artificially reduced its tax burden. This was done by inflating the prices Dutch Roseberry paid for coffee beans. So the Luxembourg family stepped in and actually created a law to prohibit one company from getting an unfair advantage over others. While the ruling against Starbucks was directed, Luxembourg itself was under scrutiny for similar tax policies as revealed. Look at that, Ryman family. Look at this. The Luxembourg family stepped in to try and clean the money up so they wouldn't have to pay taxes on this goddamn spell that they goddamn conjured. Yes! Boom.
Man, this crazy. Now I need him to do McDonald's, Taco Bell. Shout outs to Damian Michaels. I ain't know it had that deep of a meaning. He took this rabbit hole to a whole deeper level.
Убійте тако боком.
А що то ви тут Жигуля запалили?
Заїхали стоя нормально.
Чи ви фотку треба дати?
Ні, ви що, ми для полезних речей.
Ми сфоткали.
Here's why you should keep your kids off Roblox. All of these arrests that you're seeing are very recent, and you can find them with a simple search. Seems like a pretty dangerous game to me. Stay safe.
We discovered the world's most prolific child sex trafficking and blackmail ring. We took down the two apparent leaders of the network. One allegedly died mysteriously in prison while all the cameras were off and the guards were napping. And the other stood trial and was convicted in a court of law. In Ghislaine's trial, they chose to put the 4 best witnesses on the stand out of a pool of more than 100 accusers. She was convicted by a jury because of the mountains of evidence that proves her involvement. Not just victim testimony, documentation, photos, videos, financials. We know that Maxwell was recruiting these incredibly young girls herself, in person. We know where she was recruiting them from. We know how much she was paying them. We know the tactics that she was using, what she was saying. We know how they were covering it up. We know where the money was being banked. We know who the co-conspirators were, despite them all still walking free. And we have over 100 corroborating witnesses, basically all telling versions of the same story. Ghislaine Maxwell was also charged with 2 counts of perjury that never actually went to trial because the DOJ agreed to settle those counts in order to secure the more important trafficking conviction. The perjury charges didn't go away because they weren't true. They never went to trial at all because they wanted to get things over with and put a bow on it. And then, when Trump is in hot water over Epstein, he sends his good buddy Todd Blanche to record a puff piece where Maxwell tells all the same lies she told on the stand that are demonstrably false, and now you're supposed to believe her. Like, just stop and think about this for 1 second. Imagine that you lock up a murderer after an extensive trial with heaps of evidence and he's convicted on all that evidence, even though he says that he didn't do anything wrong, right? And then a year later, you go to him in jail and say, "Hey, did you do it?" And he says no. And so you're like, oh shit, dude, this dude must be innocent. He says he didn't do it. Case closed. Let's get this guy out. Set him free. He's all good, bro. That is what this thing with Ghislaine is. Okay? But yeah, you're supposed to believe a single word out of this lying demon's mouth. And it's not even about Trump. This is not about Trump. I'm not claiming that this proves anything about the guy. This is way bigger than Trump. And if half the country can pretend like, oh, maybe Ghislaine's a good guy, maybe she's just telling the truth and wasn't even really doing all that much at all, and just because like you want Trump to be some paragon of angelic perfection is psychotic, okay? It's retarded. Stop it. You're making your team look so fucking stupid, it's hard to look at.
And that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed the deep dive. If you enjoyed the video, please consider to like and subscribe to the channel. Shout out to all the reactors. Thanks again. Till next time.